this, and it corroborates independently what it is you've already done. So it's a great feeling.
Yeah, it's amazing. Now, obviously, you've got a catalog of documentaries. The infatuation with Tupac's life, his legacy, still goes on. What's next? I know you said this is kind of an end of a chapter. You put it all out there, but obviously we have an insatiable thirst, for Tupac's life.
Well, it depends. It's a great question. It depends on what you believe about the investigation. If you believe the dead guy did it, there's nothing more to talk about. If the dead guy did it, if Orlando Anderson did it, there's nothing more to talk about. You put it in the box, set it on the shelf, you're done. The beauty of what we believe is that it's not done. So when, for example, a Phil Carson comes forward and says, I have new information and I've got new witnesses, he even presented a couple of new witnesses, some former Pyru gang members that were OG, really high up the food chain, that have made certain statements about what was going on that actually also corroborate what we put in Battle for Compton. I couldn't contact them. I wouldn't even know how to get a hold of them. But Phil Carson did, and the other guys did. And so this new information is part of the press release. A year later, after this, out of the blue, somebody's coming up with something new that just happens to corroborate what we said. And then it feels good because you're on the right track. So for me, part of it going forward is just keeping my ear to the ground about it. Mm-hmm. I do a periodic live stream on the YouTube thing to give up new information if it's available, check in with things, see how they're going. I do interviews like this to kind of keep up on it. I've said time and time again, I don't see another Assassination movie coming out at all because I feel like we nailed it.
The well's dry.
Well, we stuck the landing. The way I feel like is you stick the landing. I mean, all we'd be doing is telling the same thing over again with maybe a few variations, but ultimately once you've laid it all out, you put it all on the table is set. Now you eat, and there's really no setting the table after you've eaten. And so I don't see that, but it doesn't mean that I'm not actively involved in advocacy, if you will, in terms of trying to get the message out there. There's a couple of people that I chase after publicly in terms of trying to get information about trying to solidify, and again, some of these people that were part of the story of Battle for Compton, persons of interest, have themselves come out and done YouTube channels and refuted things and all that. So I'm actively chasing that down to say, okay, well, if you refute it, show us proof, why not? So that's what's kept it. So that's what's next for me. Now, I'm also working on another project. I'm working on a book about a murder that happened in Ohio, totally unrelated to hip-hop. It's nothing to do with music industry at all. But it's a very compelling case where the guy went to trial 3 times. The first time there was juror misconduct and the case got dismissed. The second time there was a hung jury, the case got dismissed, and the third time he got convicted. But unlike a lot of cases, the case, there was no motive in the case. There was no motive for the murder. And there were no witnesses. It was a he said, she said thing. Husband allegedly killed the wife, but no motive. So I'm working on this Widmer case. I'm working on that right now. So it keeps me in the genre. But
so it's a future book.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we have Suge Knight getting 28 years on top of his involvement in the music business in the last 25 years. But he's, at this point set to come out in his 70s. Obviously, as they're putting him away, he's throwing this attempt to implicate Dr. Dre. The Dre had a hit on him. He's got all this proof, personal checks, all of this stuff. And we know the hatred for Suge for many reasons.
A lot of history there.
A lot of history. But what's your thoughts on that? His prison sentence, his attempt to spin it on Dre and.
Well, I think that Suge's in a very interesting position because he's for some reason kind of been on the LA County prosecution's public enemy #1 list. And I don't think that there was going to be any way this story was ever going to end except for the LA County prosecutors were going to get Suge in jail for past sins, whatever the case might be.
Mm-hmm.
The one that got away, whatever, that he...
The third strike.
Yeah, that he was going to go to jail for a long time. That's where they wanted him. That's where the LA County system believed that's where he belonged. So I don't think there was any getting out of that. And I think that even though in the Tams shooting, I believe there was lots of probable cause for reasonable doubt. I think there was a lot of reasonable doubt there in terms of the players involved and all that. I know that he's come out and he's talked about the fact that Dre, put the hit out on him, so to speak. I think that he's got a defense to make. I mean, this is what it comes down to. He's still on appeal for the conviction. So he's doing 28 years right now, but if he wins on appeal, then he's not doing anything. He's done. So he's appealing that, and I think that part of this narrative is an attempt to keep that story active,
mm-hmm.
and also to not conflict with something he may have said in the past. It's a consistency thing. Whether or not there's any truth to it, I personally don't see it, but then at the same time, a lot of the people that were in there and were involved in it were just trying to pacify the situation. They're trying to make everybody get along, and in that situation, and for whatever reason that happened, Suge ran over the guys. It was a horrible scene.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe there was a reason that happened, and it didn't have anything to do with Dre. Okay? I think that maybe it's more convenient to say this person was out to get me versus this conspiracy theory over here. It's easier to say this guy did it and here's his motive. Now, how far you get with that is another story, but I think that was really what it came down to. I can't see, and I don't see Dre doing anything like that any more than I see Puffy doing it, Biggie,
mm-hmm.
or for the Biggie thing. I don't see it. It doesn't smack within their personalities. And there's some people who say I don't know them at all.
Yeah, I mean, if he was going to pay cash for a hit, we would have done it a long time ago.
Exactly. So so that's how I'm feeling about the Dre thing. That like you said, if he could have done it, it would have been done a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But that's again. It reminds me of the saying: if all you have is a hammer, every problem you have is a nail. If Suge's got nothing but drama and he has this thing for Dre, then his first go-to response is Dre's got something to do with it,
mm-hmm.
which is ludicrous on its surface, but
mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it's a claim.
And how are you going to believe the guy that also implies Tupac's still alive somewhere?
Right. Yeah. Well, he does. That's it.
He's at a 7-Eleven in Malaysia or something.
Right, exactly. Well, yeah, his son, Suge Knight Jr.'s come up with all that nonsense. It's just clickbait extraordinaire. And,
the Illuminati are following
Yeah,
him.
right, yeah. But, and I think if you ask Suge directly about that, he'd tell you you're crazy. I know there was one interview when Suge said that Tupac was alive, but he was joking about it. He was smiling.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Easy E's being injected with AIDS on the Arsenio joke.
It's. I mean, his comedic timing sucks, and his choice of subject matter probably sucks. And there's about 10 other things you could say about his delivery. It doesn't mean, however, you can't read his mind. It may very well have been just something he had said sarcastically or something he'd said jokingly. In very poor taste, of course. The one thing about Suge, you can never say that Suge was ever the most tasteful person on the planet.
That's for sure. Well, it's been a real pleasure. Is there anything you would like to leave the viewers in closing, as far as why they need to get these documentaries and keep their ear to what's coming next?
Well, I think that there's a lot more. Well, speaking of Suge, there's a lot more movement going on with Suge. I think you're going to find more. Suge has been the one, and this, somebody says, why did he take the 28-year deal? It's my opinion that I think Suge's got a story to tell, and I think that when they deny you for 3 years your telephone communications, you've got other people running around telling the story for you, and you've got no input because they're keeping you locked out, and they're keeping you locked out of your phone. I think that the man to watch right now is Suge Knight. That now that he's got his telephone privileges back and he's reaching out and he's calling people, and you're doing 28 years. What's the worst that can happen to you? If somebody has something on you, you're going to say, hey, so-and-so did this and so-and-so did that. Well, we know secrets about you too, Suge. We're going to tell them. And so that's that whole standoff thing, people that know secrets about other people. But you're doing 28 years, you're going to come out an old man. What do you care anymore? If you're going to stay there long term and you're in prison, what do you care about? Nobody's got any leverage over you. What are you going to do? Another 28 on top of that? They're going to give you 200 years? No. And if they convict you of anything, they'll run it concurrent. So you'll do the time concurrently. Old charge, new charge, you're going to do the time concurrently. So I think that it's about Suge kind of weighing how the prosecutors were going to think about this, what they were going to think. I think that it was a matter of looking at the time he's got, but then now he's got the liberation to be able to tell his story without fear of somebody else holding leverage over his head that might put him in prison, because he's in prison. Where else is he going to go? And so what I would encourage people to do is watch Battle for Compton. This is it.
Mm-hmm.
Watch the movie Battle for Compton. This gives you the whole story, the whole backstory on what you need to know regarding all of these events and even events that are there currently. Once you get this and once you understand those events and how they play out, it's easier for you to understand the context of what's happening even today with Suge. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
The history is just a continuing story, and that's what this is. It's an evolving story. So keep an eye on Suge. Keep an eye on what he has to say. I think he's going to come up with a lot more information, simply because A, he's made up his mind where he's going to go and what he's going to do and where he's going to stay, and B, no one has any leverage over him for him not to tell the story anymore. So it's an exciting time for us, between Phil Carson coming out with all the new documents and all the new information he's coming out with, and then Suge Knight being willing to talk about things. He doesn't have the same allegiances that he used to have, so that's good. He's going to be free to talk about a lot more, I believe. I can't speak for the man, but I think that he will, because he's got nothing but time. And with Suge Knight, what's he got left? He has his legacy. That's about what he's got left. He doesn't have any money anymore. People think he's stashing away, but you can't go through 15 attorneys and have a bunch of money. That's the thing at the end of the day. But it's what he got. He cares about his legacy, Death Row Records. There's a lot of people running around right now taking credit for building Death Row Records. That's out there. There's people saying, oh, Suge didn't build Death Row Records. I built Death Row Records, and I signed these artists, and I did these things. And that's a bunch of horse crap. But the only man that can really put that in perspective is the guy who did it. So that would be Suge Knight. And he cares about that. He cares about whether or not he's left with the legacy of building Death Row Records. And I know it gets under his skin that somebody else is trying to take credit for doing what he did. During its time, however short-lived it was, Death Row Records was unheard of. It was, you've been in the music industry for so long. Death Row Records,
the epicenter of gangster rap.
It was. I don't know that there will ever be anything like that again, where that it was just the perfect confluence of its time, of the things that were happening, and that cradle of that new form of music that was becoming very popular. And Death Row Records selling hundreds of millions of copies of albums. I mean, they don't do that anymore because they're digital. CDs are gone. So it's just this amazing time to be in that business. And all these guys now, Ice Cube, Ice-T, all these people that are doing other things in the media, all have this man in one way or another to think about it. But at the end of the day, he's languishing in jail with a story to tell and a concern that his legacy and what he did is somehow going to be minimized. And that's why I say I think all eyes, I say all eyes on me, but all eyes on Suge Knight, because if he has the ability to talk without worry of repercussion and without worry about the prosecutor's office being on his case all the time, I think you're going to get some good information out there, and that certainly helps us.
RJ Bond, it's been a real pleasure.